Hello, hello. Let's just give another moment or two for people to join in. Just wanted to make sure that everyone can hear me all right. While we're waiting for some folks to join in here, I just wanted to get a quick check on um, what everyone's exposure is to sales suites and sales galleries, as that's going to be the topic of discussion today. Uh, so, on our screen here, you should see a little poll uh, just asking if you guys have any exposure to sales suites or sales galleries, whether it be directly, indirectly. Uh, just want to get a little bit of a check. And we'll start here in just a minute. Hello, hello. All right. So let's just get started here. First of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us today for our third NOVAVERSE webinar. Hopefully, everyone's able to take a little bit away from today's session. And as you might have noticed, we'll be talking about sales suites and more specifically, how sales suites are evolving to include both in person and virtual experiences. So, just as a quick overview of what we'll be going over, first we'll go ahead and define what sales suites actually are and why they've been an essential tool for sales for decades now. Then we'll walk through how they've been evolving over the last couple years, and then going all the way back to analog galleries to where we are today. We'll talk about what's been fueling these changes, and then we'll also take that and transition into the hybrid sales suite, is what we would like to define as where the physical and digital, they're no longer separate silos, but how we can blend them into one ecosystem. We'll push a little bit further and explore what it means to go beyond the room entirely with experiences that could live anywhere. And then finally, I'll show you a little bit about how NovaVerse fits into the image and of the hybrid sales suites of tomorrow. And I'll be sure to leave some questions, time for questions at the end. But in the meantime, if anybody has a question, I believe I have a team member or two in the chat. Uh, Feel free to drop them down below. If not, we'll get it to the end. Perfect. So let's start with the basics and define what a sales suite actually is. So, in the simplest terms, a sales suite is a purpose built marketing environment designed to either sell or lease a property before it's even built. The job of it is to transform an abstract concept into something tangible. So, to give essentially potential buyers and tenants something real, an emotional sense of what their future property would look like. And overall, if you've actually joined us for our last webinar, it's a way to bridge that imagination gap. It's the space between seeing a plan and then actually believing in that final product. So, sales suites and galleries have a few core functions that make them really great. One of them is that they make the intangible tangible. They let people see, touch, and feel the quality of the space before it actually exists. So the finishes, the materials, the layouts, they're not just theoretical or just words on a spec sheet. They all become real. Another goal of sales suites is to create that emotional connection. They don't just sell the square footage, it actually helps you envision the lifestyle and the story that people want to tell within a space. It's there to build confidence and trust. It's there to demonstrate both the quality and professionalism. So when it's done well, they feel safe committing to something that they can't yet move into yet. And of course, finally, it acts as a central sales hub, almost as an HQ where you can branch out and go in any direction from. Together, these four functions are really why sales suites have maintained such a powerful sales tool for decades now. And even as we build and market real estate, uh, the climate changes dramatically, but what stays the same is that we all have that one central uh, gallery where people can keep returning to. And now that we've defined what sales suites are and what they do, let's take a little bit of a step back and see how they've evolved. Because sales suites didn't always look sleek, tech powered spaces that we have today. The story actually mirrors the real estate industry itself. They adapt with the shifts in technology and buyer behavior. We can start with the analog age. So let's go back to, say, 1980s, mid 1990s. Sales seats were simple, physical, and deeply personal. So they were usually set up near a construction site and often in a temporary trailer or a small storefront, and they revolved around a few key elements. The main one being architectural scale models. These were the centerpieces. At the time, they served as one of the only ways to actually visualize the building in 3D. Next, we have the hand drawn renderings. These were usually romanticized watercolors or ink illustrations that showed what the emotion was or the project would look like. And then we had physical sample boards. So these were swatches of materials for countertops, floorings, or cabinetry that the buyers could touch and feel. This was a time where the experience was entirely tactile and it was about imagination and trust. And trusting that what you saw in that room would one day be real. And at the core of this whole experience was really the salesperson. So it's their passion, their storytelling, their relationship and trust that they build that really carried that deal across the line. So moving into the late 1990s and early 2000s, things started to shift a little bit. I'll call this the dawn of digital. So as the internet and PCs became more mainstream, buyers were actually able to research online before even stepping foot into a sales gallery. This created the need to connect the online world to the physical sales environment. A few big changes actually defined this era. So, websites became the first point of contact. So, if I was interested in a property, instead of calling up a brokerage or visiting a sales suite or walking in, they would go online. Suddenly, floor plans and pricing were accessible 24/7 almost everywhere. CGIs started to replace those hand drawings, offering photorealistic images and eventually fly throughs. Touchscreens allowed customers to actually interact with the property, explore the buildings interactively on their own, creating that additional layer of connection. And then, of course, CRM systems started becoming a thing, things like Salesforce. It actually replaced what sales people had as Rolodex and just spreadsheets. They were able to track deals, ensure nothing fell through the cracks, uh, have timely follow ups. The key shift here is that the sales suite was no longer where the buyer journey began, it became the destination. So, what was first discovered online then transforms into that sales suite. Then came what I think is the most dramatic shift so far. It's the immersive revolution. So, from the late 2000s up until today, by this point, information has become a commodity online. So, the role of the physical sales suite had to change. It stopped being about providing information and became more about creating these emotionally resonant experiences. A few major technologies actually drove this shift. So, VR and AR were a huge game changer. So, they can actually stand in their future homes or properties before it's built. And then you can actually overlay digital elements onto physical models or spaces and just immerse yourself completely. Immersive LED room or caves were high resolution visual wraps in the form of projections onto several walls that would transport buyers into the space. Drone footages allowed you to capture real views and specific floors even before the building was complete, giving you an accurate depiction of what your views would be, what your sight lines would be, and more. This allowed developers to start noticing faster sales cycles, more emotional engagement, because the buyers walked away feeling like they had already been there. So much of this technology has transformed sales suites, but it's really the buyer behavior that's really driven this change. Over the past 2 or 3 decades, the way that people buy real estate has fundamentally changed. The sales strategies had to evolve to keep up. So, starting with the analog era, buyers came in as blank states. They relied on the salesperson to give them every detail, whether it be the specs, the story, the vision. Today, that flipped completely. The buyers arrived armed with the data. They've seen the website, scoured floor plans, and maybe even watched an influencer walk through the property. This is exactly what the in person experience is to build on. It's what they already know, not start from scratch. Another big shift is that people no longer just buy based on the specs. It used to be about the square footage, a bunch of checklists, but now it's really driven by a feeling. They want to imagine their lifestyle there. How would it feel to wake up, walk through the space, host friends on a terrace? It means that the job has expanded, not just to selling a home, but to selling an identity. And then that requires that emotional connection. And finally, buyers today actually operate on what's called digital time. In the past, the sales process was slow and deliberate. There were phone calls, paper brochures, scheduled visits. And now buyers expect seamless 24/7 access. If they see an ad, they want to explore instantly, not just wait for a call back 2 days later. The expectation of immediacy has completely reshaped the sales journey. And all of this leads to how hybrid sales models have emerged. It's not just about adding tech into a physical space, but it's about building this seamless ecosystem where both digital and physical touch points support each other. So we can think of it as a continuous conversation between the buyer and the brand. It starts with discovery. Say a buyer discovers a targeted ad or an article, they click through. Once they click through, they'll explore the website, watch a virtual tour, bookmark their favorite layouts, and then comes the personalization layer. The system quietly notes their preferences, collects data, maybe what amount of time they spent on which bedroom or which different assets. Then becomes the invitation. They'll receive a personalized invitation from the sales team to see the exact unit in person or explore the sales suite itself. Then, once the buyer arrives, the sales agent already knows what the interests are and curates a personalized journey around that visit. And once they leave, then becomes the nurturing phase where the buyer can leave with a custom digital brochure and then get tailored follow ups thereafter. And all of this really just works so well for these four reasons. It increases that conversion rates. You meet the buyer in the channel that they're most comfortable with. You lose fewer between the cracks along the way. There's greater sales efficiencies. Buyers walk in already pre-sold. You're already pre-qualifying them as they walk in the door. So your time can be spent more closing and not just educating on the preliminary fundamentals. There's a deeper emotional engagement, a tailored journey that makes them feel known, understood, and emotionally connected to the property itself. And of course, there's richer data and insights. Every digital interaction generates valuable data that can refine the marketing, fuel future decisions, and show you what you should be spending your time on. The approach just doesn't sell faster, it actually also builds a long term brand loyalty. Now, let's take this one step further. If the hybrid model blends the digital and the physical, this next phase asks a bigger question. What if the sales suite just wasn't a place that you go to, but an experience that can be taken anywhere, that can come with you? It breaks down the idea of having a permanent physical sales gallery to sell unbuilt property. Instead, you make the experience portable, on demand, and accessible from anywhere. And there's three main ways of showing this today. You can think of it as a portable sales suite, and you can picture it as a sales agent going around with a portable VR headset, maybe a tablet, and in minutes they can deliver a full experience to clients, regardless of where they are, walking the client through their space as if they were standing right inside of it. You can set up a global pop up. Think of this as a temporary pop up sales suite. If you're at an expo or a sales conference, or you're in a space that's not necessarily your own, you can take the whole experience that you've cultivated in your own sales suite, take it with you, and then set it up remotely from anywhere. These micro galleries could run on the same software as your flagship sales centers, and they can be shipped and set up anywhere in the world, creating that global reach without that overhead. And then lastly, you can set up an always on virtual suite. It's always on, web based, and it's for your entire development. So this isn't just a walkthrough or just the website. You can cultivate an entire experience that can be shared with just a click of a link. Buyers can explore units, view the amenities, look at floor plans, basically access all of the information seamlessly without having to go through the several different hoops that are necessary. And you're not only extending your reach by doing this, you're making your sales suite perpetually open. Beyond the room strategies, just open up entirely new possibilities. And ultimately, you're widening the top of the funnel so more people end up closing. So now that we know what the value is here, where exactly does Novaverse come in? We've talked about how the sales suites have evolved and how buyer behavior has changed and where things are headed in the future. Because of the seamless journey and the portable sales suite and the always on virtual gallery, the one thing that ties all of this together is actually Novaverse as a platform. Novaverse was built to be a single unified platform for marketing and selling real estate in this new era. What that means in practice is that your marketing content, pricing data, unit availability, CRM integrations all live in one connected system. By updating a render or price in one area, you're able to have it be live across all of your platforms. In your sales gallery, on your website, on your virtual suite, you can run multiple developments from across the world all in one space, launch new projects globally without having to rebuild the tech stack. It's about giving your sales team one source of truth and your buyers one seamless experience. And Novaverse unlocks these four key advantages. With efficiency, you're able to save countless hours by managing everything all in one platform. It can be custom branded, creating that consistency, ensuring that every buyer, whether they're at your flagship gallery in New York or viewing from their phone in Hong Kong, they're getting the same premium experience. There's unparalleled scalability. So you can roll out future projects, market new ones, all with the same infrastructure. And the beauty of digital twins is it's evolving as the city evolves. It's evolving as you evolve, whether it be through the brand, through the property. You're able to make these changes that are reflected instantly without having to redo the whole infrastructure. And that takes us into future proofing. So as the new technologies such as augmented realities come in and artificial intelligence emerge, we can actually integrate with these and integrate them with your sales strategies. So things that you've already invested in don't become obsolete. Given all of these, we can actually explore what your property looks like with Novaverse. And if you wanted to explore a little bit further, feel free to reach out to us, drop a comment in the chat, or just visit our website, and we'd love to explore what your property would look like in the Novaverse. And that being said, I'd love to open this up for questions. So, real quick, does anybody have any questions about the presentation, about Novaverse as a platform, what we're able to do, what's feasible? Just would love to open the floor up to Any thoughts that anyone could have? Seems like a fair bit of people actually have experience with sales galleries, so that's great. And if there are no other questions at the moment, uh, I'll let everyone get back to their lunch or the rest of their day, wherever you're located. This recording will be available online as well as the previous webinars. So if you're interested in looking back, learning a little bit of something new, they're all short, bite sized, just like this one. And we're hoping to see you again soon for the next one. Thanks so much for joining.